Hello and welcome. We're so happy today to have Kiesha Nix join us. She is currently runs the Los Angeles Lakers Youth Foundation, but before coming to this important role, she had a very, very impressive career also journey working in private banking for Merrill Lynch and then was at Bank of America. So today she oversees as leading this Lakers Foundation, Youth Foundation, oversees and directs programming and funding priorities for the charitable arm of the Los Angeles Lakers. She's responsible for implementing the mission of the foundation, which is to assist underserved youth in our communities and to develop and recognize their full potential by providing positive experiences and resources in education, in health and wellness and sports. She's also worked for countless nonprofit organizations and strives to uphold the Lakers' reputation of being champions in the community as well as on the court. So, wow, what a time to have Kiesha join us, coming off of an incredible victory, the NBA, the best team in the NBA championship game series. And let's get first things first out of the way, other than welcome Kiesha to Google Talks. We're so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so excited to be here.
So when I say first things first, after welcoming you, obviously the NBA season has just been announced, and I'd love for us to get that housekeeping out of the way, because I'm sure it's very top of mind for our audience. Tell us what's going on and how things are feeling, given that we're off to, I guess, an exciting start.
Yes, it's funny that we're doing the talk today right before I start my vacation, which is so critical at this point because the season will be starting in just a few weeks. It seems like. So it was announced the season will be starting back in December. And so we're excited, but we're not sure. We're a little nervous because it'll be different. We are still following all the protocol of COVID and safety measures. But there is some excitement, especially, us being on top, being champions. We're ready to get back at it and, hopefully repeat next year.
Yes. Well, it's been quite exciting. I just moved to Los Angeles and had lived in Chicago for a long time. And if any of my colleagues from Chicago are watching, I've become a quick convert from being a diehard Bulls fan into the Lakers world. So it's really an incredible brand and powerful franchise that really grabbed me from the start. So let me start with your point on I'm getting you right before vacation. Last year was an incredibly exciting and also extremely challenging year in season. One thing that we talk a lot about at Google is well-being. So you're about to go into vacation mode, and you and I were talking about just how important it is to find the time to just get away, recharge. I'd love to hear a little bit about what, as you're going into vacation next or this week, how you think about recharging and just really the stamina that you need to get through the season. It's a long season.
No, it's so important. And, we forget about it. We don't make ourselves a priority. And if you think about it, this last season was the longest season in the history of the NBA. So we started last September with Media Day. And then we did not complete the season until mid-October, 1 year later. And even though there was a break in between there, and that wasn't a break that we wanted, that was a break because of COVID, but literally the season went for a year plus. And so for many of us, we were working, the entire time without really having a break, even if, you were just taking off and not going anywhere. So it's really important, for myself and for our staff that we take some downtime, and for our players, for their bodies to heal and recharge. And it was so funny, even though my COO had this talk with all of us, I found myself on a call a couple weeks ago planning for some things in November. And my HR director said, Kiesha, I have to remind you, we need to take some time off. So I said, okay, fine. After, mid-November, I'll take a breather. But literally we have things on the calendar. Season of giving starts before Thanksgiving, and we have a lot planned for our youth. And then we roll into December and it's the holidays. And it's challenging, but it is something that we all should work on, work-life balance. Because if you are not able to give 100% of yourself, then you're really no good to anyone else. So I'm looking forward to just kind of unplugging, possibly not answering any emails for a week or so, and just seeing how I can, come back ready and improved.
That's great, Kiesha. I think that lesson is so important for us. As I said, well-being is something that we really think a lot about at Google, and I appreciate those lessons, especially from someone who's working in a world-class organization, a championship team. You might expect that it's go, go, go all the time, and I think this rest and retreat for a moment is a really good lesson. So thank you for sharing how you think about that. So maybe if we back up a little bit, now that we got kind of the news cycle out of the way, I'd love to hear a little bit about just your journey. And specifically, you're obviously live in Los Angeles now, but did you grow up here? And, from the time you came, how has the city changed? It'd be good to hear kind of your vantage point, just as a Angelino.
Yes, I am definitely born and raised here. So I am one of the rare true Angelinos, was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles, and, went to, school here, literally grew up a Lakers fan. My entire family are Lakers fans. And so, just watching the city grow and develop, and to see, where we are now, to have, 11 major sports teams here in Southern California, to have these amazing stadiums and arenas. And, to me, that means, growth and, employment opportunities. And I'm seeing cities that were, not thriving, actually thriving now. I live in the great city of Inglewood, literally in between the Forum and the new SoFi Stadium. And so just to be able to experience that, I'm just amazed, every day. I think California is the best state. I think Los Angeles is the best city. And so I'm just really, excited to see all the growth, being here, living here my entire life. I'm a single mom of one son, raising him here. Even though he went away to college, he found his way back to Los Angeles because he loves it here as well.
That's great. Well, it is a storied past. And one that, in many ways is emblematic of a lot of the things that I think the Lakers have experienced over the last year, like challenge, hardship, tragedy, but also incredible tenacity and resilience, and frankly, a commitment to hard work and to a strong vision. So it's really, in many ways, mirrors so many things you're doing today, just that full course. So talk to me a little bit about, if you would, it's great to hear your proximity and your passion for the city, because I think what you're doing now is really feeding into it. So while you love your city, it's clear you also love your sports. So say more about that. Like, was somebody in your family a big basketball fan, or is it just impossible to escape the LA Lakers fever, which frankly caught me pretty quickly?
I think it's a little bit of both, Wendy. I grew up in a sports family. And I often joke, that other than attending church on Sunday, you had no choice but to watch all sports, basketball, baseball, football. That's something that we did, as a family. We supported, each other's, from little league to, college games. And today, it's no coincidence that I have, several people in my family. My cousin is David Fisdale, that was recently coaching the New York Knicks and the Grizzlies. I have cousins that have played professional football, also basketball. So it's just something that, we grew up knowing that, there was family, there was church, and there was sports. And
I love it.
Yeah, you didn't have a choice. I didn't really play sports. I was a cheerleader, which is considered a sport, but you didn't have a choice on, whether to watch or attend. It was just something that you did. And so I grew up loving all of the Los Angeles teams, literally grew up going to the parades in the 80s. I went to high school in Inglewood, and the Laker girls literally used our gymnasium to practice. And so life has really come full circle. I am, still amazed and sometimes have to pinch myself, that I get to work with the very Lakers that I grew up watching. So while I love our current team, I look at them more as, like they're my son's age. But when I get to work with, Magic and James Worth and AC and Robert Ory, I'm just like, oh my God, these were the guys that, I grew up watching. And now they look at me, almost like a little sister. We're a part of a family. And so life has definitely come full circle.
Wow. That must feel like you're in precious space right now in terms of just your own goals, what drives you and fuels you. It's really inspiring to see that you made it happen. I mean, say a little bit more about getting to this space. I mean, you had an incredibly esteemed career before coming into, excuse me, this area. I'd love to hear did you ever think you'd be heading up this youth foundation and kind of fueling two things you are so passionate about, sports and also building, the infrastructure and the sustainability of a community that you love so much?
No, Wendy, I did not ever see this happening. Again, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles to grandparents that raised me on a very fixed income. But they also taught me about the importance of community and about giving back. And so a lot of the things that we did together, as I mentioned, as a family, we did through the church or through the local community. And so I watched my grandparents, literally give back even out of the little that they had. And they always made us feel like, we could do anything. I think I was in like middle school before I realized that we were even, considered low income because I never wanted for anything. They literally made everything possible. I even went to private school. I went to Catholic school for 13 years just because they thought, it would give me a better education and better opportunity. So I grew up, in this great neighborhood and this bubble almost, seeing people give back, seeing people help one another. And I went away to college, majored in English, wasn't sure, what I was going to do with that. Came back to Los Angeles after being in Nevada for 4 years. And someone asked me to submit an application at Merrill Lynch. And I'm thinking, I hate math. I hate business. I hate economics. Why would I go there? And lo and behold, I started working at Merrill Lynch, and I literally, evolved that into a career. It started out as a 9-to-5 job, just to make ends meet. And then I literally developed a love for, finance and for business and for, helping our clients. And at the same time, however, I decided that I would do community relations for free because there was a way to take the influence I had from Merrill Lynch and bring it back to South Central Los Angeles. So I often joke that, Merrill Lynch got a 2-for-1 for 18 years. I didn't get paid to do that second job, but it was very rewarding. So imagine, taking financial literacy to South Central or to Compton, taking high net worth individuals, brokers, clients, and showing them, because they had a desire to give, but showing them communities that really needed their help, introducing them to students that they could actually mentor. So that was how I, got myself into community relations while at the same time being very much involved in finance. And it was probably around the Great Recession that we experienced when Bank of America came in and bought Merrill Lynch. And a lot of opportunities were merged together. And there was this great opportunity to go into community relations. And I said, oh, God, no, I don't want to do it for real. I just like doing it on the side.
I love it.
I love my, lucrative career in finance. And a few mentors of mine said, you know what, if ever there was a perfect position for you, this is it. And you should really take this opportunity. And for me, a single mom who had a son going off to college, I had to balance whether to take this opportunity that also came with a huge pay cut, because now I would be moving from a revenue generating arm to an arm that was giving away money, for the company. And I said, you know what, if I'm ever going to land where I really want to be, and my passion is serving my community and serving youth, I'm going to have to make this sacrifice. And so I did. And the first assignment they gave me at Bank of America was to manage the relationship between the bank and the Dodgers. And so voila, the rest is kind of history. I mean, I was able to, take my love and passion for sports and Los Angeles, and then really help the bank direct, our funding priorities. And I did that for about 3 years and really helped to grow the relationship there and the sponsorship between the bank and the Dodgers. And lo and behold, about 3 years into it, Jeannie Buss called one of her good friends at the Dodgers and said that she was looking for someone to come and run the Lakers Foundation. And the person at the Dodgers said, she doesn't work here, but I have the perfect person for you. And Wendy, that call came on a Monday. And by Friday, I had a whole new career.
Wow. Wow. This is huge. I mean, what's interesting, there's so many interesting things about what you just said in that journey. Taking that leap around things you're passionate about, transitioning out of kind of a side hustle or hobby into something that you decide to pour your life's work into, to really realize is just amazingly courageous. And I think, it's obviously netted huge benefit for the community, but I'm certain for you as you talk through it. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, I guess what I'd ask too is that I think, I've been at Google for about 1.5 years, and I've noticed how community oriented the people who work here are. And I'd love to have you say a little bit more about how, as you were doing that, kind of side project work and even transitioning, I think a lot of people here even think, should I go, full-time, help make the world a better place? So could you say more about just translating the skills that you had and helping find some traction and some impact among kind of this world of, helping others and kind of translating, if you will, the things you knew how to do into a world that has different, metrics and has different, structure or lack of structure. I'd love to hear a little bit about that, how you were able to bridge that.
Well, I often, ask people that tell me, what their passions are, would you do your job for free? Ask yourself, start with that question, not advocating that you quit your, full-time employment, but that was something that I really, had to ask myself. Because when you think about for 18 years, I was doing something literally for free that, no one was paying me for. I wasn't necessarily getting the recognition, but I was training myself. So I was in training ground, for what would ultimately become my career. And so you just have to really ask yourself, what sacrifices you can make. Not everyone is in the same situation. Again, I was a single mom. I had to make sure that those ends met at all times. But I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I loved helping the community. I loved helping youth. I wanted to encourage other single moms, like myself. I wanted to show them that if I could do it, they could do it too. And so I just tell people, to really follow their passion. It's the same thing with, college, majoring in something that you really love versus trying to figure out what's going to net the highest income. Those people tend to fail more so than if you just go to college, if you go into the workforce trying to do something that you really enjoy. If you can find that, that's amazing. So English was my major. I did not want to go into education, but I knew that in any field, I would need the ability to communicate with people, to communicate with others. And so I took that English degree. I took those skills of being able to sell because I was in sales, at Merrill Lynch. I took those skills and translated them into fundraising and into the foundation and the world of community relations. I mean, I have had some, some great moments, personally, where, I've been able to raise in an afternoon at a golf tournament, I raised over $550,000. And again, I look back on, my career at Merrill Lynch. I was selling a different product to a different group of people, but I took that and I took those skills. And so you just have to know, what it is you're good at. I'm not a techie. I am so not a techie. I had to get my son to help me with these headphones this morning. And so I have to recognize, where my strengths are and what my weaknesses are, and be willing to acknowledge that and ask for help. But at the same time, I had to take some risk when I took that leap of faith. And that's what it was when I left, Merrill Lynch and moved to Bank of America. Not knowing, how I was going to pay that college tuition. I knew that ultimately the job that I ended up with at the Lakers, that would never have come my way at Merrill Lynch by sitting in, a high net worth office, helping clients diversify their stock portfolios. That job was not going to come by way of that. So the only way that type of job was going to come was if I was willing to make the sacrifice. So I just encourage people. And it's never too late. I often joke when I speak in public that it took me 45 years to become a Laker girl, but I finally became one. I just wear a uniform.
I love it. I love that. And the best of. So that's great. So I'm also curious, can you say a little bit about just so definitely the community relations piece, and I absolutely understand that, Bridge. Can you say a little bit more about your background and between sports, corporate America and sports America? Do you feel like there's some good metaphors and learnings across? What are a couple nuggets that you feel like you've really been able to leverage as you moved from the corporate world into the sports world, knowing that it's a foundation within the sports world?
Well, I think one thing, the corporate world, finance, sports, those are all heavily male dominated worlds. And so, as a, Black female, I had to get tough skin, pretty early in the game. Because it is not for the faint at heart or for the weak. Because again, you are around, strong men. And so you have to find a balance, in being aggressive, but not too aggressive, and being assertive, but not too assertive. And so I found a lot of similarities in finance and corporate America, in sports, as well as, at Merrill, again, I was dealing with a special niche of people, high net worth individuals that, own their own company, were, top level, C-level executives at, companies like Google. Wendy, you could have been my client. And so I had to figure out a way, to make those clients, feel like, they were a part of, the family, and I was a part of their family, and be able to really hear and listen to what they wanted to happen, because here I was, helping to manage, one of their most precious commodities. And so you translate that, into sports. You're dealing with high, level athletes, large, contracts. You're taking resources, from a huge entity or an icon like the Lakers, and then you're responsible, literally for putting this, brand out in the community, a global brand. And so, there are just so many similarities, getting to know the players, their families, finding out, what their long-term goals are. The Lakers, are truly a family. And that's something that, I heard about before I got there. And I was a little skeptical at first, but now I really see it and feel it. And so it's important to make sure that, the relationships that I'm building, that I'm continuing to carry on this legacy, that has been laid, before me with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Wow. Yes, I agree. And thank you for those lessons. I think they're really, great linkages. I appreciate you also acknowledging as a Black woman, just like where that plays for you. And I think it translates really strongly for me. Obviously, I'm not Black, but as a woman who's worked in very male dominated fields, how both men partner with women and women find a way to navigate that. So thank you for sharing that very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit sideways and do a little bit of gossipy stuff with you.
Okay.
So the first one, just kind of play around a little bit. So the first is, who's your favorite Laker?
Oh gosh, this is so hard. But in all honesty, and I've been pretty consistent with this, my favorite Laker of all time is Magic Johnson. And my son would often tell people, don't ask her that question because she's going to say Magic. And he grew up, during the Kobe era. So he would, always say Kobe. And so it's so hard for me to say Magic and not say Kobe because I did get to spend some, great quality time with him as well. So I would have to say, it's kind of a 1-2 thing.
Yeah, totally understand. And both, each has an incredible space towards making the Lakers what they are today. So totally appreciate that. What is it that you what made them your favorites? Just any kind of favorite memory, positive memory that just really solidified the fact that they're the kind of humans that they are, or what you admire most, or just how they've partnered with you.
Well, Magic, just growing up and watching him, come from, such humble beginnings and to be where he is now. That is so inspiring for me, let alone, all the youth in the different communities. And he really, he shows up. He's Magic Johnson, but he takes the time, to come to, the community events. And, he doesn't have to do that. And he still does that today. So he leads by example. So that was, very important to me. He's such a positive person. He has a great work ethic. And so did Kobe. There's nobody that could literally outwork Kobe. And I have a friend that, she always says, hard work is the great equalizer. So it doesn't necessarily matter where we start or these humble beginnings that some of us had. But if you work hard, you can make anything possible. And when you look at the two of them and, what they had to overcome or, the challenges in their lives and then where they ended up, that's so inspirational for me and to so many others.
It's so true. And the thing that for me has always, and I'm a mom, so, I think a lot about this as it relates to my kids is we all have gifts, right? Thankfully. And many of us have challenges, and the way that we approach those gifts, and it doesn't mean you don't have to go and, do the thing you're supposed to do or work hard or, practice one more, shot that we keep missing or whatever it is. It's like that work ethic and that tenacity and that passion behind hard work is quite admirable. And I think a great lesson for us to continue to remember. So thank you. Do you have a favorite Lakers memory? Not necessarily as an individual team member, but more so just something that just really stands out for you?
Oh God, there's just so many. It's hard to say. Here recently, winning this championship, together, even though we were together apart because of COVID, or just some of the simple things. I literally walked into Staples Center this week as we made it a voting center. And just to be able to be back in that building, after so many months. We haven't been there since March 10th. That was our last game. And so it was so important for me, just as a part of my civic engagement and civic duty. But I worked at different voting centers that we sponsored. But I had to be there at Staples on November 3rd on election day. And it was just so symbolic. So there's so many, great moments, but that was one of the latest because it literally just happened this week. And just being back in that building just brought back so many great memories.
Well, I love that you were there that day. I heard a lot of anecdotes around just how much more accessible voting was for so many folks because of opening up those sites. So I know LeBron's been all over that. And I just really admire the fact across the entire team and your foundation that using your platform for good has been so important. So just hats off. And I can understand why that would be a real standout, just all of us exercising our rights on the right to vote. So one other thing that I think could be fun for the team or for our teams to hear is a little bit more about resilience. And I think in particular, there was a bit of a drought in terms of playoff wins. So just love for you to have a little bit about just a little bit of highlights around how that plays out in terms of what you teach even kids in the foundation, through the foundation around, being able to, obviously, in those instances, I think they're dealing with very challenging situations. And so, having those reserves of strength and faith and belief and hopefulness, I think are important. Obviously, sports is one version of that. The foundation is another. But I'd love for you to say a little bit more about resilience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely joined the Lakers during a time that we were not winning and not going to the championship. I was literally at our last championship in 2010. I was at that game as a fan, or as an employee of Merrill Lynch, and kind of conducting business. And so when I started with the Lakers, it was funny. My son came to visit me, within the first week of me being there, and he was able to meet Jeannie Buss, the owner of the Lakers. And he said to her, he was entering his senior year of college, and he said, how bummed he was that he wouldn't be able to be there that first year. And she said, "Oh, that's okay," and she was talking to him about, the importance of your mom coming on at this time. She's going to get to see, us create something special. We have all these young new players. And my son is standing there holding court with Jeannie Buss. And he goes, "Yeah, she came home and she was so excited about, all these great benefits." And he goes, "You know what I said to her? The best thing is you're going to get a ring." And she said, exactly, like, that's the mentality that we want to have around here. And it was so funny because here we are, that was, a little over 5-6 years ago. And I will definitely be going in to get my fitting for my ring.
Oh my God, how exciting. That is for sure. And good on your son that he called that out. I love that.
Yes.
Slight other sidebar. So, and then I'll come back into some of this line of questioning. But as long as you mentioned Jeannie, obviously she's just a force of nature, and just so impressive on so many counts. I mean, she's put some serious points on the scoreboard as it relates to women and leadership and just leadership overall. So can you say a little bit about, you work very closely with her. I think you report to her and one other person, Dooley.
Yes.
Give us a little bit of a view into what it's like to work for someone like her and just what you feel like you've learned.
Oh my God, working with Jeannie is amazing. When I first met her, I just couldn't believe how humble she is. She works very closely with one of her best friends, Linda Rambis, who's the wife of Kurt Rambis. And so again, it's a family atmosphere. And I remember the day I went in for my interview, I was supposed to only speak with Linda Rambis. And I walked into her office and Jeannie Buss popped up. And she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited to meet you." And I was thinking, "You're Jeannie Buss. Why are you so excited to meet me?" And she said, we talked to people that know you and everybody said the same thing about you. And she was just standing there, so excited to meet me. And I really felt, from the first time I met her, she was just such a genuine, good spirit, just so humble. And so working, so closely with the two of them, talking to them, sometimes on a daily basis. At the time before we moved offices, my office was just right down, the way from theirs. And the one thing that, I admire most about Jeannie is, again, the words keep coming up, is work ethic. I don't know the other 29 owners, in the NBA, but our owner is at work most mornings before the rest of us even get in. You pull up, you see her car in the parking lot. You leave and you see her car still in the parking lot. I mean, she literally is at the office every day. She's not, I'm like, when are you going on vacation? I feel bad because she's always there, and her door is always open, and she treats, everybody the same, from the janitor, to the CFO. And that's just something that, again, you don't, find in all companies. You don't find in all employment. And so it really feels, like a family. And just for her to be a strong woman, to be so inspirational, and then to be so down to earth. I see her walking through Staples Center, never saying no to a fan who wants to take a picture, who wants to talk. I just see her. This is something that she learned from her father, the late Dr. Buss. And you can see that, she is definitely carrying on his legacy. The team has so much respect for her. And we all do, because she's a great person.
That's awesome. It's really inspiring. And especially because I think the humility around that, we talk a lot about humility at Google. And I think that, obviously she was born into basketball royalty, but that she doesn't wear that on her sleeve is really powerful. And it's really, frankly, a great role model for all of us. So thank you for sharing that peek into life working with and for Jeannie. So I'd love to hear a couple more little fun tidbits. And then I definitely equally fun want to get into the foundation a little bit more, but where were you when the Lakers won? And I'd love to hear just how you're feeling, in terms of the organization and the community, resonance when you're going through your drought versus when you're, winning a championship. How does that translate? So the first is just a fun fact. Where were you when it happened? And that, give me a little color commentary. And then secondarily, just that transition from challenging times to winning times. How do you all kind of keep your heads clear and straight during both?
So I watched every game, every playoff game, every game to the championship, I watched at home with my son. For a couple of reasons. One, if you saw the virtual fan wall in the background of those games, we were very much responsible for some of that. So with our season ticket office, the foundation and our community relations department had a panel, which was 32, fans on a wall at all of our home games. And so there was always something, it's technology, it's different. There was glitches. So I needed to be, in front of my television and at my computer for every game. So people didn't understand that I was actually working, during the game. And so I didn't want any distractions. So I loved being at home, watching the game. And again, with my son, because he, has seen the journey. So on, championship night, it was just the two of us. And it was just almost surreal, we would love to have been at Staples or, somewhere at a big celebration, but we know that will come in time. We're just happy that, we did it. We finally did it. And it was so, deserving. I mean, after everything, that we went through. And as far as, being out in the community and keeping, spirits high, even when we aren't winning championships, working for an organization like the Lakers, I mean, it's a global iconic brand. It's not a hard sell, Wendy, even when we're not making the playoffs, people want a part of that brand no matter what. And so I take that, very seriously. It's not hard to encourage, the youth because they know what we're capable of. They've seen, the history of the Lakers. They know the consistency there. And a lot of our athletes, will share with you, you can't win them all. You have, that's what creates your character is how do you act, when you're not winning? What do you do when no one is watching? And so we just literally take those life lessons and we show up. We show up whether we're winning, we show up whether we're not winning. And consistency is really the key for us. I love building the relationships in the community so they don't feel like the Lakers are just there for a publicity stunt. I take that very seriously. Everyone at the organization knows I don't agree with that. And so if we're going to do something, we have to do it correctly. If we want to catch photos, that's great. But what did we do for the organization? What did we give? What did we put there? We're not going to exploit any nonprofit organization. We're going to build a relationship, and we're not going to just write a check. I don't believe in just mailing the check. I literally show up. That's why I was at our voting centers. That's why, you know, I'm at the Boys and Girls Club. I don't do just pop-up visits, but, you know, I go to what the events are. I want to be there. I want to talk to the youth. I want to encourage them that they can be the next LeBron James. They can be the next Kobe Bryant, the next Magic Johnson, but they can also be the next Kiesha Nix. You know, there will be so many more of them that can land positions, you know, in our front office than will maybe ever play on our floor. So it's very, very important to me that I make everyone around me take what we do in the community seriously. Whether it's a corporate partner, whether it's a season ticket holder, there are so many people that have a heart to give. I just want to make sure that we shape it correctly, that we do it the right way, and that we're always spreading positive messages of encouragement to these youth, because a lot of them are very vulnerable. You know, we serve the underserved communities. So you think about that. They're already lacking in resources. And so sometimes people will come in, you know, with good intention, but not maybe take care of it the right way. Or they just want to say that, you know, that they did it, and they want to maybe have their picture on the front page of the newspaper. And that's not okay. You know, I take it very seriously. I feel like all these children belong to me. I only have one biological child, but I feel a responsibility to make sure that we provide accurate resources and we put them in the right hands.
So I love that so much. I think I told you I worked at a nonprofit for 5 years. It was incredibly rewarding. Yes. And the integrity that you have, I use that a lot around, you know, what you do when nobody's looking. I love that. And that you're not going for the photo ops. You're going for real deep commitment and meaningful exchanges, so that these things can change people's lives. You clearly know that. Yeah. Practice that. So thank you, truly. Could you tell me like a story of a really meaningful engagement that of one of your Lakers participating in something that you're doing in the community? And then if you could then talk about some of the initiatives you have happening in Los Angeles and ways that we can get involved if we want to.
Well, one example, and I have to take it back to my favorite, Magic came to us a couple years ago, and he wanted to do something meaningful in the community, and he wanted to get the whole team involved. And so we sat around and we talked about it, and we decided that STEM was very important in the African American and Latino community, and the lack of resources. So we decided that we were going to help a local high school with building out their STEM lab. They basically had the infrastructure and they had the funding from the school district to literally put the desk in, but they had no one to fund the actual curriculum. And that was just so bizarre to us. They didn't have a funder to actually purchase the iPads or to buy a charging station. They had a charging station, but it belonged to the English department. And so we just sat there and said, wow, you know, this is somewhere where we can really make a difference. And because we were dealing with a school and a school district, there were a lot of challenges, and it did not happen overnight. And that project took a long time. And so we finally were able to pull it off, and we showed up. And because the school was very well known for their athletics as well, Magic wanted to go and speak to the sports teams before he came to the robotics lab. And while he was standing there talking to them, he started to recollect on what it was like for him in school. And he literally started to shed tears in that moment, because there was no one to provide the opportunities that he was now providing, or that the Lakers were providing. And he saw so much opportunity and potential in these kids that it literally made him emotional. And we were standing there looking at each other like this was not planned. This was not part of a script. this was just something that really happened. And we replay that video, oh God, like over and over again, to see those tears coming out of his eyes, knowing that he was provided an opportunity that wasn't necessarily afforded to him. So we have things like that, happen all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That was a big one. That was a big moment, because that was something, again, you couldn't plan for. It happened, and you knew that it was definitely from his heart.
That's excellent. Well, really, I mean, speaks volumes. And I'm sure, that's one thing I'd say for the underserved community. I think the truth, like the radar on truth, is really high. Just because having to navigate the world is challenging. And so I think that probably was really an high impact moment for the people in the audience, the kids in the audience. So well done on that front as well. So can you say a little bit about some of the initiatives you're doing in the community? Are there ways for us to get involved if folks are interested? I'd love to hear more about that. And then I have a quick close, and then I think we're going to wrap this up.
So you mentioned our mission statement, in the beginning. We, serve underserved youth in the areas of health and wellness, sports, and education. We've shifted, some of our gears during COVID, but, still keeping true to the mission. And so we've done a lot, of COVID relief efforts, literally food, drives for our first responders and for, our community. One thing that I noticed that was really lacking during COVID is this digital divide. There are so many youth that we work with at our local Boys and Girls Clubs, just as one example, that don't really have the technology that they need in order to keep up in school. So one club that we work with, they house, I think, 5 clubs, which is about 1,900 students. And they came to me in the beginning of COVID and said that over 500 of those students did not have technology. So 1,900 students, 500 of them did not have what they needed. And I thought, oh my God, like, how am I going to do this? So we decided that this was going to be an area that we were going to focus in, and we did. And we bought, the technology. But then as we were giving them the technology, that wasn't enough. We needed to make sure that they also had Wi-Fi in the house. That if it took a hotspot or whatever it took, because what good is it to hand a kid a laptop, but then they can't use it? So that was just very important. And then I felt like it wasn't enough. Like, no matter what I did, every time I found like extra funds or a partner that wanted to partner, that's where I was, putting our efforts. And lo and behold, when we made it to the finals, the NBA came and said, hey, we have a finals legacy project, and we want you to tell us where is the need in the Los Angeles community. And I was like, I have it. And so literally, we are building a maker space and STEM lab at Challengers Boys and Girls Club. The kids will have access to 3D printers and, all types of virtual technology. And we're so excited. We went down and surprised them with Robert Ory. We practiced all the COVID safety measures. We only stayed for a few minutes, but we were so excited. So I feel like technology and education are just so important, because again, it goes back to the great equalizer being hard work. And if you can present, these types of opportunities in the community, then you never know where these children may end up. It's not just about sports. Sports is an avenue and it's a vehicle, and it is so important, but that avenue opens up to so many more things. And so we just want to make sure that we equip them. So during, COVID, the COVID relief efforts, everything that was happening, as a result of, racial injustices that we were seeing, the civic engagement, with us opening up these voting centers, we have definitely tried to make a staple and an imprint in every area. We listen to our players and we hear them loudly, and what they want to see happen is important. So the foundation, as well as the Lakers organization, is just walking hand in hand, with our team. And hopefully we're making them proud. They're making us proud on the court, and hopefully we're making them proud off the court.
Amazing, Kiesha. Really, really powerful. And you've kind of led me to the last thing I wanted to ask you about. very flawlessly. So thank you. And that is, as I hear you talking and I think about the Lakers team and the foundation, something that continues to resonate for me is this sense of building, a legacy through mentorship. And I think about what you've done in terms of being, just from this short time, such a role model for your son. It's really powerful to hear the things you've not only taught him, but empowered him to become for himself. It's clear just in hours talking about this. And then I think about on the court, like I look at LeBron and AD, like I loved AD, always like hung out and waited for LeBron to get off the court because they take care of each other and LeBron's helping him out. And I'm sure that happens across the team in multiple ways. It was just one I enjoyed personally. And then likewise, your examples in terms of what you're doing to build infrastructure and sustainability. So, mentorship is really important to us at Google. And we continue to make, DEI a huge priority and thinking about, building an organization for all people and how people add to the culture. And not just fit in the culture, but just how we continue to evolve together. So I'd love to hear any parting words from you, given the fact that I'm hearing all these data points from you on mentorship and being the role model and the legacy across the organization. What would you leave us with, knowing this is important to us too?
Well, I think, no matter what your title is or your role, whether you are LeBron James or Anthony Davis, or you're Kiesha Nix, or you're Wendy MacGregor, you can definitely make an impact. You have to do, what you can do. At the end of the day, can you look yourself in the mirror and say that you created a better space for someone else? It's cliche, but I definitely, score myself not on how successful I am or what titles I hold, but how successful do I make those around me? So for me, and that was one of our slogans during the championship run, was leaving a legacy. And for me, that is so important. As I said before, just being out in the community and having those youth look up and see that there's someone that looks like them, that grew up in the same set of circumstances, who's willing to come back and give back and encourage them. That is critical. That's key. So I feel like we all have some mentorship within us. And maybe, for one person, it looks a little different than for another person. And so no one should, force you or guilt you into doing something that you don't want to do. But just think about if you could help just one, if everybody was able to help or impact just one. And you have to be careful because people are watching you, whether you sign up to be a mentor or not, whether you say you're a role model or not, people are watching you. So sometimes it's just so simple in your little day, day to day. Did you help a neighbor? Did you let somebody, go in front of you in line? Kids are watching, and sometimes they come back and tell you these stories and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that something so small had an impact. We run into directors now that played in our junior Laker youth basketball program 30 years ago. And now they're running a Boys and Girls Club. And you're like, wow, because we implemented one little program that made a difference. So you just have to make sure that you're careful, because you are literally holding a commodity that is so precious. And you are literally having an influence and an impact on so many lives. So I feel like everyone at Google, all of our Lakers staff, everyone out there, you can do it. You can make a difference. These lives are looking at us, and we literally have within our power to change someone's life. So just take that seriously and just think about it.
I love that, because I think what's important about that doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a small thing, but it has huge returns and multipliers. And I think that's a brilliant gift to leave us with. In addition to thanking you for your time, thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for what you're doing for the community. And thank you for giving us some great lessons to leave this talk with. So good to see you, Kiesha.
You're so welcome. And thank you for representing today, Wendy, with that Lakers sweatshirt. I really appreciate it. I felt the love.
I love it. Okay, thank you.